Have you ever wondered just how common certain dangers really are, like bullying, online predators, and teen depression? Well, Bark actually has real-life stats around these. Our 2024 annual report analyzed 7.9 billion online activities, and the results are eye-opening. Every parent needs to hear exactly what it's like to be a kid online these days.
The annual report is one of my favorite projects that I get to be a part of here at Bark. I remember the first year doing one, I was like blown away at what we find and what parents can learn from it. This year, 7.9 billion activities analyzed across more than 7 million kids. It's wild that we have the ability to share this data with parents. Where is that data coming from?
Yes, I'm glad you asked. And as I hold on to my laptop, because it's freaking out, right? It's like, oh, it's a lot. We analyze text messages, direct messages, saved photos and videos, memes, comments, posts, browsing history, essentially a child's digital signal. Now, what I want to overtly express is that it's anonymized data. We take children's privacy and safety very seriously. Obviously, that's why we launched this company. And your data is your data. We are analyzing it for you, but we don't do anything nefarious with it. We don't sell it, but we do analyze it to help the world understand what is really happening with kids today. Because do you know who is not giving up that data?
Snapchat, Meta,
TikTok, YouTube,
all of them.
Yeah. If the major social media platforms and search engines, etc., were to release Roblox, right? Were to release how many children were harmed by or encountered a variety of issues on their platforms, children under 13, who aren't even supposed to be there, the world would come to a stop.
Yeah.
And so this is critical data that is proprietary to Bark, and it's hard to be excited about it because it's so heavy. These are children that are being impacted. We are excited that we can make such an impact. We're excited to share this with you so change can happen, but it comes with a very heavy heart to share this with you.
Yeah. It's why it's interesting to me that it is one of my favorite projects that I work on, because it is such heavy stuff. And it's, as soon as it's live, I'm sending it to my friends and they're like,
blank, blank.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. You know the words.
Yeah. Yeah.
And knowing that it's being shared and that it's opening up the eyes to parents or guardians, family members who might not understand what's really happening.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like I'm proud that we can do something like this and we can help in this way, despite it being heavy, heavy stuff.
Very heavy. Very heavy.
Yeah. Something that was interesting in this year's report is that we saw increases across the board in all of the categories that we're flagging for.
Except for predation,
Yeah,
right?
Predation saw a slight decrease.
But slight.
But yeah.
And it's still too much.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's still happening. It's still very much a thing.
Right.
But why do you think this year that happened? Why did we see such increases?
Great question. I don't know for a fact, but what I can surmise is that when we were first allowed to be together again in real life, there was almost like this euphoria that contributed to kindness. Like, man, we can finally leave our houses and see humans again. Let's be kind to each other. We've been through a lot. Mm-hmm. And I think as we've gotten further and further away from 2020 and 2021, we're falling back into our old habits of taking people for granted, treating people not very well. There's that. Then there's the social media platforms. Certain ones are afraid because they are losing viewership. They're losing users. And so they've got to do everything they can to keep us inside of their apps, which means ramped up powerful algorithms and features. And we know that that's a perfect storm for problems for kids online. There is so much happening in the world that is volatile and stressful and scary. And again, without the appropriate filters and time limits, younger kids are exposed to it. Despite very noble efforts like Wait Until 8th and the Smartphone Free Revolution and IRL, which stands for In Real Life, and Jonathan Haidt's book, The Anxious Generation, and did I already say the phone free school movement? I can't. Okay, great. So I'll just reiterate that. Like there's a lot of grassroots efforts trying to combat this, but it's going to take a major inflection point before we start to see that reflected in the data.
Yep, absolutely.
It used to be, like 8th graders, then it was 6th graders, then it was 5th graders, and now it's like first graders. So the amount of children that are getting access continues to increase because it's younger and younger and younger.
Yep.
So anyway, one more reason why, we are seeing more and more problems with humans whose brains and hearts are not fully ready to accept what the internet has to offer them.
Yeah. Makes perfect sense.
I think so.
Interestingly enough, this year, Twitter/X, whatever you want to call it these days, was at the top of the list for flagged apps in multiple categories: suicidal ideation, depression, body image concerns, and severe bullying. We haven't seen, it has always been one of the top apps, but to see it across the board, like either 1 or 2, was pretty interesting to me. Why do you think that, what can we attribute that to?
Yeah, Elon, please do not come after us. Like, I have a great deal of respect for the innovation that you have created in this world, right? Like, Starlink, sick. Tesla, awesome. I won't go into the political stuff. If you're interested in my thoughts there, feel free to DM me. But with regards to X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, it has been reported that they have lost a great deal of content moderators. That is a recipe for disaster when anybody in the world can join your platform and upload content, and it's not fact-checked or it's not filtered as much.
Right.
Or you roll out initiatives to be more open to mature content. June 3rd, 2024, according to Variety magazine, Elon Musk's X now officially allows porn after update to policies. So that could be why.
Yeah.
If kids know that there's a place they can go to view all this stuff, they're going to go there. Yeah. So again, X is not worse than Snapchat.
Right.
Please know that.
Yeah.
Snapchat is the worst.
Yeah.
But because of X's updated policies around content and their cuts for their content moderation team, I don't think they are fully taking into consideration the amount of children that can access their platform. And Elon, again, I'm going to appeal to you as a dad. Like, if anybody in this world can help make a tech platform safer for kids, it's you. So let's work on those parental controls, please.
Yes. Please.
Please.
Very well said.
Thanks.
And I'm pulling this up, the data, because we saw 2 categories that I noticed had a pretty significant increase year over year, were self-harm and suicide and anxiety. And specifically, it was up almost 5% in tweens for self-harm and suicide. So we saw it was 37% this year. And then in anxiety, we saw about a 4% increase year over year between tweens and teens. I feel like most of them were like, they were increases, but 4 to 5% increases just felt like big, like really big for some reason to me. What do you what do you think those two categories specifically, or why those two kind of saw that bigger increase?
I want to really like zoom in on what you just said, which was percentage points,
Mm-hmm.
and remind people that these are children we're talking about. This is a very high number of children who are encountering this sort of content or
Mm-hmm.
expressing this as a direct feeling or sentiment or issue they're struggling with. So let's not let anybody, lose sight of that.
Yeah. And I think that's why it stood out to me so much. Like, just the 60% of teens were involved in a self-harm or suicidal situation. That's huge.
It's huge.
And 37% of tweens, still a massive number. Like, I think for me, that's why I was like, whoa, what? Like,
well, and it highlights the fact that suicide is the second leading cause of death in children in this nation. Every day at Bark, we're sending parents and caregivers between 85 and 100 severe self-harm or suicidal ideation alerts about their kids every single day.
yeah.
Suicide has a contagion effect.
Mm.
Now, not a doctor, so if you would like to research that further, happy to share some resources. Please reach out to us, comment underneath this video. We can link to educated experts who have covered this topic. It's unprecedented. And, on the flip side, if there is a positive around this, more and more children are talking about it.
That's a great point.
They're not keeping it inside. They are letting their friends know when they're struggling. They are expressing themselves on Google Docs or in tweets or in Instagram posts, in snaps, etc. So they're talking about it, which is great because that means there is a digital signal that Bark can analyze and send an alert before it's too late.
Right.
And that's the goal. I mean, if you've seen Childhood 2.0, powerful documentary, free, everybody should watch it on YouTube, you'll see Dr. Sujit Sharma, a pediatric emergency room physician, and he talks about, and so does Dr. Free Hess, also an ER physician. They talk about how the amount of children that present to the emergency room with either successful or unsuccessful suicide attempts has dramatically increased over the past few years.
Yeah.
And what has changed with childhood? They have these devices. More and more of them have these devices, unsafe devices, unfiltered devices, access to social media, access to a 24/7, 365 news cycle that is fraught with anxiety, right? Whether it's the issues happening in the Middle East, the election, and people's fears around, are they going to be deported?
Right.
What's going to happen to the environment, etc. So,
I mean, they're constantly online. We've talked about that many, many times. They're just being fed stuff. And to your point, it's really sad that suicide has almost become like glamorized via social media, especially places like, and I don't know if Tumblr was, they were on the list for a few things, but it's just crazy to me that something like that for kids is like, this is going to sound so dumb, but cool. Like they're making it seem like it's just like this desirable thing. And it breaks my heart to know that is the second leading cause of death in kids. That that should not be the case.
Two things on that. Agreed. +1 to that.
Yeah.
Fully support that thought. We were talking about the contagion effect, and I just pulled up the National Library of Medicine, and the contagion of suicidal behavior. There's evidence to support the idea that suicidal behavior is in quotes, contagious, in that it can be transmitted directly or indirectly from one person to another. This evidence is derived from 3 bodies of research, studies of suicide clusters, studies on the impact of adolescence of exposure to a suicidal peer. And anyway, it's that should cause us all to be alarmed.
Right.
And to the point of glamorizing suicide, I mean, I don't know how many of you watched the series 13 Reasons on Netflix.
Yes.
But like highly, highly irresponsible to put something like that out with a bunch of beautiful people and filtered scenes that do not adequately showcase how permanent that decision is and how you don't get to control the narrative after you're no longer here.
Yeah.
Even if you record a tape or write a note. And the pain that ripples through a community is unspeakable. And they didn't capture that in the series. That's for sure. Anyway, there's so much to this annual report. And another thing, there's 9 issues here that we highlight in our report. Bark analyzes for more than 40 different types of abuse types and issues. But just while we're talking about self-harm and suicide, what this really highlights is that we've got to talk about this with our kids.
Yes.
Much earlier than we might think.
Yeah. I mean, it's not something that you would think you have to, but the data is there. The proof is right in front of you. And of course it's not an easy topic to approach. And I know that you probably have a few pointers, if you will, on how you can talk to your kids about these types of things.
Yeah.
But it is so, so important.
Yeah. And so while we're on that topic, one thing that really frustrates me, and I get it, like people want people to subscribe to their email list and click the clickbait thing and fill out the form and whatever. But we're not going to do that today. I'm not going to be like, sign up here to figure out how to talk to your kids about suicide. No, we're just going to tell you some things. So, you don't have to come right out to your 4-year-old, right? And be like, hey, did you know sometimes people want to kill themselves?
Right.
We're not saying you need to do that. And by the way, the more appropriate term, if we're looking to be more sensitive here, is die by suicide. That's a more sensitive term to take into effect, but I get it. Not everybody knows that yet, and that's okay. So that's why I say it that way. But what you can say to your children, starting from a very young age, is, hey, you know how sometimes you fall down and you skin your knee and it hurts really, really bad, but we'll clean it up, and that might stink too. Put a Band-Aid on it, send you on your way. Or you get a cold or a sore throat and we give you some medicine. Your body can get sick. Your body obviously feels pain, but it's not just your bones and your skin and your muscles. It can be your heart and it can be your mind. Sometimes your emotions can feel really sad or really sick. And that's a totally normal part of being a human. And you don't ever have to be afraid to let me know if you're feeling that way. Don't ever have to be afraid. And sometimes you might not even have words to describe feeling just kind of uneasy. And that's okay too. But you don't ever have to struggle with it, in silence.
Right. It's as simple as that. It's just how you approach it. But it's an important conversation to have. And I think to your point, you need to have it much sooner than you might anticipate.
Much sooner.
Yeah.
Do you know where you don't want your kids to learn about suicide from?
The internet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's what we're saying. Okay.
You've seen this report come out for years. You're a mom. What, as a parent, not as our chief parent officer, our chief marketing officer, what's your biggest takeaway from it doesn't even have to just be this year's report, but the reports in general?
Despite the fact that we've been at this for almost a decade, we're just getting started in terms of educating the world on what's really happening with kids and helping to turn the tide around these very tragic trends. Also, it's not a matter of if your child is going to encounter this content, but when.
Mm.
And it doesn't even have to be them directly, right? If they're on a text thread with 20 kids, somebody's talking about some of this stuff.
Yep.
Do they ride a bus to school? You know, if they don't have a device, somebody on the bus probably does.
Yeah.
And, you know, you can't rely on the bus driver to keep kids in line,
Right.
much less their digital access, right? Do they have friends with older siblings? Like, it's not a matter of if, but when.
Mm.
Good kids make bad choices. It's just going to happen.
Right.
How we react when our children do surface things to us that they have encountered is super critical here, right? If we freak out, if we punish right away, they're never going to tell us anything again.
Right.
So don't do that, right? Be calm, stay cool. Doesn't mean there aren't consequences and ramifications for bad choices, but like just be cool. Yeah. Honestly, like I wish I just want to put like a bumper sticker on my car, like everybody just be cool.
Yeah.
It's not that hard.
Yeah.
Stay calm, right? Anyway, I not to simplify it down to that, but like it's kind of that. Just be cool, right? And like help your kids navigate this. Help them navigate this rocky landscape instead of A, trying to remove every rock from their path, or B, just keeping them in a bubble, you know, and thinking they're never going to encounter it. Yeah. It's not going to work out for you.
Yeah. I love that. The difference between like moving everything out of their way for them or like keeping them in this little safe space. Like you can't do both. It's not going to work.
There's not enough bubble wrap.
Yeah. Trust us. All right. If you could give parents one thing to walk away with, given everything that we've discussed today and what's been presented in this year's report, what would that one thing be?
There has never been a time where parents needed to be more involved in their kids' online life as much as their real life. You've got to be on it. They're spending upwards of 8 hours a day in these digital spaces. If you don't know what's going on there, you're essentially having unsupervised kids out in the world.
Yeah.
And that's not a good parent. You are not being a good parent.
Yes.
I'm not saying that to judge you, because I have been the not good parent. I've let my kid play Roblox and Minecraft without the parental controls turned on for hours at a time because I needed to work or I needed a nap or I needed a break. I've let my kid, you know, peruse Netflix without enabling, you know, the child-friendly PIN code situation, right? And I shudder to think about what he saw at age 9, 10, right, before he was ready. So again, I'm not judging you. I'm more warning you to please don't make the same mistakes that I and so many other parents did. You've got to be proactive, but you also don't have to do it alone. I'm not saying like, good luck being the IT consultant for your child's online safety, right? We've got plenty of resources. You can message us through whatever medium you're watching this or listening to this. You can join the Parenting in a Tech World Facebook group. 600,000 parents are there as of recording, helping each other. There's so many resources to help you keep your kids safer online. So please don't go another day without doing that.
I love it.
In summary, if you care about the well-being of kids, you don't even have to be a parent, right? But if you care about the state of children today, this annual report is something you need to review and please share. The more people that know what is happening with kids today, the faster we can actually do something about it. So, you know, listen to this on 3X, whatever, like whatever. The point is not about what Sam and I have to say about this. The point is know the data, share the data. We will have links to the report. Anywhere you're watching this or listening to it, find it, share it. If you don't know how to find it, just ask us. Leave a comment. We will wrap it up in a bow and deliver it to you. Like, share this data. And thank you so much for listening and watching.